Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back, but first we want to recognize our podcast sponsors, and we also want to give a shout out to our new partners. We want to say thanks to WeCOACH. Go to wecoachsports.org and find out all the programs that they have available for women coaches. That's wecoachsports.org. Also want to say thanks to our partner, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. WeCOACH Sports is currently focused on colleges, which is outstanding. Global Community of Women in High School Sports is focusing on the high school level, but both great organizations. Go to globalcommunityofwomeninsports.org and see how you can get involved. So thanks to our two new partners, WeCOACH and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. Now, let's hear from our sponsors. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. They sponsor the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also connects you with your parents and your student athletes in a way that just can't be done if you don't do a survey. Okay. Most of the feedback you're going to get is going to be just like ours. We use surveys for years, and it was almost always positive. But the surveys also allowed that squeaky wheel parent to vent a little bit and sometimes share a small issue that you could address and keep it from turning into a big issue because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Final Forms, the industry leader in registration, but Final Forms is more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. They have reminders for parents about policies and physicals and all the forms that come with athletics. Final Forms can also help your coaches with attendance and communication. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the forms that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating custom branded content for their school social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. It's so simple, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com and start creating world-class content for your school's social media channels. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Digital ticketing is here, and it is great. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to sell your tickets, how to scan the attendees that come to your games, how to collect your revenue, and every step of the way, you will have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. Hometown Ticketing can also show you how to sell tickets for things like school dances or plays, music, and arts programs, even graduation. Go to hometownticketing.com and start selling digital tickets for your school's events. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a head football coach, I used Huddle for years, and as an athletic director, our school was a Huddle school. Our coaches just love the analytics, the easy to use cameras, all the software. Go to huddle.com and see how you can turn your school into a Huddle school. Okay? Over 6 million schools and organizations and individuals are using Huddle. And if you want to find out more, go to huddle.com and talk to their experts. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank SnapRaise. Go to snapraise.com and see how their fundraising platform can help you raise thousands of dollars. Better fundraising makes better programs, and the Snap Raise digital difference can be a winner for you. Our coaches use Snap Raise, and it was just fantastic. It was easy, it was safe, it worked. Okay. And as an athletic director, I didn't have to do anything with it. I knew what was going on, but wasn't involved. And Snap Raise will help you, just like they've helped other programs, raise thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay. Grow your program with Snap Raise. Go to snapraise.com, change your fundraising game plan. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Their indoor scoring tables and video boards not only raise money for your department, but also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Our school is one of the first in Florida to have a Sideline Interactive indoor scoring table, and it was just fantastic. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or send them an email at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. See exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, set up a live web demo, and see their tables and boards in action. That's sidelineinteractive.com. And we want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a great way to display your school's Hall of Fame or recognize every single one of your team's school record boards, you need to get in touch with Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. Okay. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. They can help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present, and help showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. Once again, go to sales, shoot them an email at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com or go to their website at vitalsignswalloffame.com. You won't be disappointed. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. I say this every once in a while, but today it's certainly true. We have a very, very special guest today. Our guest is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH, and she's going to talk about WeCOACH as we get into the interview. But if you haven't heard of Vanessa Fuchs, she was the Senior Associate Athletic Director at Florida State University for a number of years. She was also selected as the NCAA Athletic Director of the Year. Spent a number of years at the NCAA office. Back in her playing days, she was an outstanding athlete, an outstanding scholar athlete. And now, as I mentioned, she's the CEO of WeCOACH. So, Vanessa Fuchs, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you, Jake. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we also want to let our listeners know that in the last couple of weeks, WeCOACH and the podcast have entered into a partnership. We support each other's endeavors. Obviously, that the podcast, we just try to share stories. I'm going to let Vanessa talk later on about all the things that WeCOACH provides for coaches and for athletic directors. But we always like to get started by having our guests share with our listeners kind of the origin story. So give us that, 3-4 minute bio, where you were born, where you grew up, kind of take us up to those college years. We'll take a break and then we'll come back and hear more about your career. So what's your origin story, Vanessa?
Sure. Thank you so much, Jake. And thank you. You mentioned it for joining us as one of our member benefits partners. We're really excited to have you on board and look forward to the opportunities where you'll be able to help amplify the women coaches in our community, in our WeCOACH community. So thank you for that. I am originally from Florida, believe it or not. I was born and raised in South Florida in Pompano Beach, Fort Lauderdale area. And when I was a young one growing up, I did not ever understand why I always get the question twice. When someone would ask me where I was from, I'd say Pompano. They said, no, where were you born? And I didn't realize that there were, it's because so many people kind of flocked to Florida. Not a lot at that time in the late 70s that were actually born in Florida. So I had, the fortune of having sports be a part of my life from the age when I was maybe old enough to start participating. And I credit my dad. My dad was an elementary and high school. He was a high school track and field coach and PE coach. And then he transitioned when we came along to the elementary ranks and as a physical ed instructor. And he spent 43 years in the Florida sun. And he really influenced myself, my older sister, my younger brother, to get involved in sports. And so from the ages of when we were old enough to play minor league and little league baseball, we were out there. And he encouraged us to be involved in a number of different sports. And so I think really, whereas you see so many young people kind of specializing early in their career, I was fortunate to have the opportunity and the influence from my dad to get involved and try out a number of different opportunities. So that's always been a part of my life. I'm so grateful for the impact that not only my education, but my participation in sport has had on me. Growing up, my dad was a Florida State graduate. He was a track and field pole vaulter for Florida State. So I always had that goal and aspiration to attend Florida State one day. Throughout high school, I played multiple sports. It was volleyball, softball, track and field. I didn't start basketball actually until my 9th grade, and I had a coach at the time who was my freshman geometry teacher who called me out from the back of the room and said, "Hey, you in the back, you're going to come out for the basketball team." And I said to him, I don't really like basketball. I got cut in middle school. So, but for Coach Greg Lasher encouraging me to give it another try my freshman year, I probably would have never have had that opportunity, but worked hard at it and had the fortune of earning a scholarship to play at Florida State, and then came in 1997. The fall of 97 was the first year that Coach Sue Semrout was our new head coach. And one of my teammates was my roommate and teammate all 4 years, Coach Brooke WeCOACH. She just recently was announced as the new head coach at Florida State when Sue retired in March. And so I had a tremendous experience at Florida State. And I encouraged, throughout my time, I spent the last 12 years there in administration. And I'd always tell our Seminoles, maximize every opportunity you have on this campus. If you give of yourself during the 4 or 5 years, the amount of time that you have on this campus, give of yourself, and this university will give back to you for a lifetime. And I really believe that no matter what university or college you attended, I really believe that if you kind of pour into and maximize your collegiate experience, you're gonna benefit and receive those benefits throughout your lifetime. And so, Sue had a tremendous impact on me, and I was grateful for that opportunity. She had the philosophy, she treated us as people first, students second, and an athlete third. And she never strayed from that philosophy. And she provided us, along with Florida State, the campus, and the athletics department, an unbelievable experience. So I guess it was no surprise that I then came back in 2010 to rejoin the staff and maybe pour into and give back to our current generation of student athletes there. And now I've been at WeCOACH now this is my 5th month at WeCOACH, and incredibly excited for what's to come with our organization, the growth and impact that we have on women in coaching and elevating the numbers in terms of women in coaching is truly special. So it's an honor to be able to serve in this capacity now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the multi-sport experience. I'm much older than you, but I mean, that's how it was back in my day, and something as a coach and an AD, I always tried to promote. And I love your expression, pour yourself out. That's actually the name of one of my presentations. I want to go back to when you came to FSU. You mentioned that was the start of, the Sue Semrau era. What was the, obviously now Florida State women's basketball is, nationally recognized, top level program. What was the state of the program when she took over and you were arriving as a freshman?
Not good. We had not been to the NCAA tournament in quite some time. We were the bottom of the ACC at the time. The ACC was only 9 schools, 9 institutions, and we really had finished over the last several years 8th or 9th in the league. But Sue saw a vision. She had a tremendous vision for the program, knew where Florida State could be, and really remained true to that vision. And so we were fortunate that over the time that I was there, with players like Brooke WeCOACH, we were able to elevate the program. And by my senior year, we were able to finish in the top 25 in the country. We went to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 10 years, made it to the second round, played out in Ames, Iowa, unbelievable crowd and game experience for us. And I'll never forget some of those memories. And it's really neat to watch now, right? So it's been over, 20 years. And to watch the growth, certainly in the 90s, it was during the time that Coach Bobby Bowden, legendary Coach Bobby Bowden, was on his, was it 15 straight years of top 5 finishes. And since that time, not only football, but every single one of the 20 men's and women's sports programs have really elevated and are advancing to NCAA postseason each and every year. And it's really neat to see the investment and what certainly that legacy that Bobby started to put Florida State kind of on the map as an athletics program. It really helped to elevate all of the programs over the years. And so I'm really proud of not only what Florida State women's basketball has been able to do, but all 20 of the programs.
Yeah, and we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to have you share a little bit about your involvement as an athletic administrator with that success. For our listeners, our guest today is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH, longtime college athletic administrator. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Final Forms for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. They've got reminders for parents about policies and physicals and all the forms that go with having an athlete in the house. Final Forms can also help your coaches with things like communication and attendance, and even help with their own certification management. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the forms that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Vanessa Fuchs, the CEO of WeCOACH. We're going to hear more about that as we get into the podcast. But Vanessa, right now, share a little bit about your experience at the national office with the NCAA. And then I'm really curious about your experience as an athletic administrator at Florida State University. So, take us back through those early career days for a bit.
Sure. Coming out of college, I actually wanted to coach, Jake. And unfortunately, there was some budget cuts. And so the graduate assistantship that I was going to take to remain at F.S.U. was not available. And so Coach Sue helped me pivot and take an internship. So my first job out of college was an intern opportunity at the Atlantic Coast Conference office, the ACC. And I helped in planning all of the Olympic sport championships. And then we would not only help plan them leading up to, but then go on site and administer the championships. And gosh, I'll tell you, it was eye-opening to see just how much, when we would show up at the ACC women's basketball tournament, the balls would roll out, everything would go off without a hitch. And we athletes would never give a second thought to how much time and planning and coordination went into those events. So that was eye-opening for me. And it really helped me to catch a vision for my own career and helped me to develop this passion to kind of rethink my career path and think about getting into college athletics in some way. And so from there, I was able to attend graduate school at UNC in the sport administration program. At the time, I don't know if it's still the case, but at the time it was the only athletic administration program specifically targeting careers in college sports. And so I spent about a year at UNC, and then I had the opportunity to take a second internship at the NCAA, and that's where I ended up in Indianapolis. And through that internship with academic and membership affairs, so it's kind of the equivalent of compliance on campus, I was able to work with schools and conferences all over the country, divisions 1, 2, and 3, and really learn the ins and outs of the governance of collegiate athletics during that time. And so about 6 months into my internship, I was fortunate to be hired full time. And throughout my various roles there, I ended up spending 7 years in Indianapolis. Unbelievable experience. Worked primarily in legislation, helped serve as a staff liaison on numerous different governance committees. But the national network of colleagues that I was able to build through that experience is something I'm forever grateful for. And having worked at a conference office in the NCAA, I thought, gosh, this is what I want to do with my life. And then Florida State came calling in 2010. And I knew if I didn't at least give it a try, that I might regret it. And so I came to Florida State, back to Florida State in July of 2010. And I'll tell you, it really, again, changed my perspective. I didn't realize what I was missing not being around student athletes and coaches on a day-to-day basis. And it just was an unbelievable experience. The days fly when you're on campus. There's something new every day, new challenge. But my fondest memories at Florida State were working with our student athletes and knowing that every decision we made in our administration, we had to keep our student athletes at the forefront. They were our why. And so every decision we made, we wanted to make sure that we were making those with our student athletes' best interests in mind, and getting the feedback and input from our student athletes and our coaches as we worked each day to administer the athletics department there at Florida State. That was really just a joy to be able to work with our next generation of leaders, really. And it was a privilege to be able to, like I said earlier, I felt like I was kind of giving back for all the great experiences and memories that I was given during my collegiate career. So forever grateful also to Florida State for the experiences that I've had.
Yeah, it's always great to hear those stories about people that get to come back to their school, whether it's their high school or their college, and then work. Obviously, some of the coaches that were there as coaches when you were a student athlete were still around. And now there's that, as you mentioned, that next generation of coaches that you as an administrator are helping to mentor along with the student athletes. Obviously, you had some great success there as, the senior athletic administrator. What are a couple of things that stick out for you from those years, that things you're really proud of?
Yeah, there's so many experiences, and there is, like you said, there's something special about working for your alma mater, and so I never took that for granted. Gosh, so many examples that I can give, but I'll tell you, the recent years, my final years there were certainly ones where we had to be prepared to flex with the different challenges, different societal issues that were arising, and and make sure that we had the proper support in place, certainly and primarily for our student athletes, but also for our coaches and support staff in athletics, with COVID impacting our world. And that's unlike anything anybody had ever been through, right? And there's no roadmap for how you manage a pandemic, and so we were kind of building it and flying it at the same time. But also, when shortly after COVID, then you had the murder of George Floyd, and social justice became top priority for our country, as it should. And I do believe that sport really galvanizes people and helps to promote social justice and equity for all. And so we had to be prepared as an administration for how do we best support these young people we are serving and give them opportunities to communicate, opportunities to educate themselves, opportunities to have safe spaces to share what they're going through. And then we also did the same. We hosted open arms, open ears for our student athletes, listening sessions, but we also did the same and similar for our staff and coaches. And so what I learned through all of that is, one, relationships are the number one priority in this business. And I don't like to refer to it as a business, but in this industry, in this business, in this educational career that we are in of college sports, relationships are number one, but certainly a very close number two is communication. When you're going through challenging times like COVID and dealing with social injustices, your relationships with people and the way that you communicate with everyone involved to make sure they feel included, to make sure they feel informed, and that their opinions and their thoughts matter. That's one main takeaway from my 12 years there at Florida State.
No, absolutely. You hit it on the head. And it goes back to one of the things you very first mentioned, that, your why, we're about the kids, whether it's, college student athletes or high school student athletes, we're here for the kids. Great stuff. Okay. For our listeners, our guest today is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH. We're going to hear about that in just a minute, but let's take another break, hear from one of our sponsors. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com and find out how to start selling tickets digitally to your stakeholders. If you go to hometownticketing.com, they're going to show you how to sell your tickets, how to scan your attendees, how to collect your revenue. That's certainly important. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager with hands-on support. Hometown Ticketing can also show you how to sell tickets for things like school dances and for theater and music and arts presentations, even graduation. Go to hometownticketing.com and start selling tickets digitally. That's hometownticketing.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Vanessa Fuchs, the CEO of WeCOACH. We're going to hear about WeCOACH, but first, Vanessa, we always have our guests share some of the mentors that they've had in their lives. The expression that I use is, I still hear my mentors' voices in my head. So do you have any voices that you still hear?
I hear a lot of voices, and I'm so fortunate. I've had so many people impact my life, both within and outside of sport. Certainly coaches make up a big number of my mentors, but and what I always share when I constantly have young professionals reaching out saying, how do I best position myself for the career goals I want to achieve? And I always say, you've got to start with having some mentors in your life. And the advice I always offer is you've got to have a diverse set of mentors. And what I mean by that is not only gender, racial, ethnic diversity, but age diversity, experiential diversity. You don't necessarily need mentors that only work in athletics, that only coach. And so experiential diversity in terms of individuals that are both within and outside of the sport world, if that's the career you're choosing to pursue. And I'm telling you, I intentionally made effort throughout my career and still today to surround myself with mentors that are diverse, that help me to see things from different perspectives and give me really solid career advice. And anytime you're talking about diversity, you're going to get different opinions, different perspectives, different ideas. And so that's what makes it so powerful as you build your mentors. And so that I'll start with that. And you talk about the voices. I will never forget my freshman year in college. I went to Sue and I said, I think I'm going to transfer. I'm not playing as much as I would like. Imagine that. I'm sure I was the only college athlete ever that did this. And I'll never forget what Sue said to me. She said, Vanessa, you are so, oh, she said V. I went by V. V, you are so much more than a basketball player. You need to do the little things that set you apart and make you an asset to this team. And her advice was basically, don't worry about the playing time. The playing time is going to take care of itself. But if you're doing all the other things in your life, focusing on academics, serving the community, really getting involved in the collegiate experience, if you do all those little things that maybe not everyone's willing to do, it'll set you apart and make you stand out as a leader amongst your teammates. And I really believe that advice my freshman year, which it also convinced me to not leave Florida State. You know, by my senior year, I was fortunate to be named, and this was an honor for me, that my teammates nominated me to be co-captain. And certainly not because I was playing a lot and my stat sheet was impressive. I like to say that I'm the all-time best bench warmer at Florida State. But it was because of all the other things that I was doing to be a really good teammate, to help lead and encourage my teammates in the classroom, in the community. And I really do believe in all the different extracurricular and student groups that I was involved with. I really believe all of those things allowed me to have that honor my senior year. It certainly wasn't my production on the court that led to that place. But again, I just really am fortunate for mentors like Coach Sue and many, many others who have given me little nuggets that I've now taken throughout my career and applied. And so I still, even now as CEO of WeCOACH, trying to find the little things that set me apart, set WeCOACH apart, and make a difference. And so that's, and that's something that comes from a mentor back when I was a teenager.
No, absolutely right. I love that expression, focus on the little things, which is, as you know, often turn out to be the big things, those difference makers. And again, with leadership and captains, teams know, they know who the leaders are. And certainly those things that you were doing and had done, resonated with your teammates, and they said, hey, V is our leader.
Well, thank you for that. I'll share one quick story you made me think of when you mentioned my teammates. They still resent me to this day because in the summers, when you weren't able to kind of work with your coaches at that time, the rules have changed now for basketball where you can have summer workouts, but back then we had to be self-motivated to do this. I would get my teammates up at 5 and 6 in the morning to do workouts. And that was in the summers. And I still hear, when we have alumni reunions, I still hear from them. They give me a hard time about the early mornings that I made them, get up before everybody else in the country and train. And I really think some of those things were small in the grand scheme, but I do think it may have helped us as we were, battling to make the NCAA tournament my senior year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see that, as you mentioned, getting back to that tournament and making it into the second round. Yeah, absolutely. And again, those reunions are always great. I love going to mine. So for our listeners, our guest is Vanessa Fuchs. She's a longtime college administrator, but now she's the CEO of WeCOACH. And when we come back, we're going to talk about WeCOACH, what it is, and why you as an athletic director should know about it and get involved. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. It's so easy, even I can do it. We use Gipper to announce our podcast episodes, and Gipper created the template for our virtual background. Go to Gipper.com and start creating custom content for your school's social media channels. That's Gipper.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH. And as I mentioned earlier, the podcast. Very excited to become a member benefits partner with WeCOACH. But Vanessa, for somebody who hasn't heard of the organization, what is WeCOACH? Maybe how it got started and developed, and then we'll come back and we'll take a real deep dive into all the things that WeCOACH provides. So, what's the WeCOACH story?
Sure. We're excited that 2023 we'll be celebrating 20 years of our Women Coaches Academies, and that's really how our organization first got moving. And we started with offering Women Coaches Academies to help target some of the challenges, obstacles that women face in coaching, and give them some strategies to help successfully navigate those challenges and obstacles. And so 2003, we held our first Women Coaches Academy and partnered with the NCAA. They've been great partners of ours, and we can't thank them enough for the support to be able to host these academies each year. And from there, we officially kind of became a nonprofit organization in 2011, entitled the Alliance for Women Coaches. And in 2018, there was a rebrand to the name currently, WeCOACH, and we essentially we serve women coaches, all sports, all levels of sports. Which makes us somewhat unique from maybe coaches associations. We supplement the work and complement the work of coaches associations, but coaches associations might focus specifically on one sport or one level of sport. And what's really powerful about what we do is we bring all women coaches into the room. Doesn't matter what sport you coach, doesn't matter what level you coach, from youth, club, high school, middle school, junior high, high school, college, and then on up through professional teams, national teams, Olympic coaches. So, and we offer these women coaches year-round professional growth and leadership development in an effort to recruit, advance, and retain more women in coaching. The data demonstrates we've surprisingly experienced. So here we passed Title IX in 1972. We're celebrating 50 years of Title IX this year. So many awesome opportunities that have been given to women as a result of that law. But one point that a lot of people probably don't recognize is that in the 1970s, before Title IX was passed, the data demonstrates there was about over 90% women coaching women's sports. And since that time, over the last 50 years, we've now arrived at a place where there's roughly in Division 1, 2, and 3, the average is roughly 41% women coaching women's sports. Women coaching men, 5%. The number of women of color is also not where it needs to be. 16% in Division 1, women head coaches of color. So we exist to help move those numbers and really try to help women catch inspiration to get into the coaching profession, and then keep that motivation because the impact they have as women in coaching is tremendous on the lives of these young people that they're raising up to be our society's next generation of leaders. And so we have a saying with WeCOACH: if she can see her, she can be her. And so we exist to promote and advance women in coaching, but we certainly recognize the critically important role that men play. And so we value male allies. And Jake, I would consider you one of them. Thank you for the support you offer, because we have so many men in this country and men in sport who are helping women get these opportunities, not only in coaching, but in administration as well. You're certainly one of them, Jake, so thank you. And, but that's critically important. As we talk about diversity in sport and bringing people together, that's the power of sport, is us learning from people who are different than we are. But certainly there's an issue there as the numbers have declined. We exist to try to elevate more women, move those numbers, but certainly recognize that we need the men just as much as we need the women. And so I'm incredibly honored. This is my 5th month on the job, and really looking forward to what's to come for our organization and most importantly, our members as we move forward.
Oh, well, again, thank you for those kind words. But, we are excited. My wife, I've shared this with you before, as a career coach, cross country and track, 40 plus years, high school and college. We've got 3 kids, 2 girls. They did sports. It's just the right thing to do. And where we see the podcast being able to help is, we say that we allow athletic directors and coaches to tell their story, and
Yeah,
everybody has a story.
so
And
important.
we've done over 300 interviews, and half of those have featured, women leaders, just like you. So if there's a story out there, if you're an athletic director or coach, you'd like to be on the podcast, shoot me an email, and we will get you on the podcast, and you can share your story. You can brag about your school, and you can offer tips to other athletic directors. So
Yeah, you mentioned this story, Jake. I was going to just briefly say, I love to say this, there's room enough for everyone. And we are at our absolute best when everyone's represented in the room. And you talk about the stories that people can share, but there is room enough for everyone. And we are at our best when everyone is represented in the room. So thank you for saying that.
Again, we are very excited to, be partners with you and help continue to share those stories. So for our listeners, if you haven't been listening, our guest today is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH, longtime college athletic administrator. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take a deeper dive into WeCOACH and find out some of the really cool things that are available for women and for those men allies, and why you should get involved with WeCOACH. So stick with us. We'll be right back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle to help elevate the performance of their teams using video and analytics. As a head football coach, I used Huddle for years. And as an athletic director, we were a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the mobile apps, the smart cameras. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs. Huddle's also being used by over 6 million people, including the college coaches you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program and how your school can become a Huddled school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Vanessa Fuchs, the CEO of WeCOACH. Vanessa, you talked a little bit about WeCOACH in kind of a broad perspective. We're trying to move the numbers. We're trying to, promote and help, women coaches, and also bring, men along as allies. What are some specific things that WeCOACH can provide? And again, how can, and I guess let's do the obvious. Why should, our listeners get involved with WeCOACH?
Sure. I'll first start because I've noticed the last 2 partners that support your podcast, Jake, are also partners of ours at WeCOACH. Gipper, Huddle, incredibly supportive of the work that we're doing. And so I was thrilled to see that they're also supporting your podcast. I was just on the phone with some Gipper staff yesterday talking about how we can better collaborate. And I think they're going to facilitate some sessions for us. And Huddle's been a longtime partner, and we're actually actively planning for our December 16th Breakthrough Summit with Huddle that we co-create together. It's a day-long digital summit. We're going to be on site at the AVCA convention this year, which is new. And so we're excited to join the volleyball coaches out in Omaha, December 16th. We'll have a live in-person audience, and then probably about 6,000 digital viewers. I hope more. But it'll be another fantastic breakthrough summit that we're planning with Huddle, but just tremendous partners of ours that I just wanted to give them a shout out as well. You asked about why join WeCOACH, what are the member benefits? And we've got a long history of offering both virtual as well as in-person programs. I mentioned the academies earlier. That's one of our in-person events. We now have academies for both high school as well as collegiate coaches. And then I mentioned the Breakthrough Summit is a day-long virtual or digital summit that we offer where we get some of the most renowned speakers to pour into our WeCOACH community. I'll also mention you don't always have to be a member. Yes, we are a nonprofit membership organization, but you don't have to be a member to get access to some of the programs that we offer for women coaches and for administrators in sport, such as our video chats. Monthly video chats that we offer are open to members and non-members. Our We Amplify program for women coaches of color is open to members and non-members. So there's opportunities to engage with us, even if you don't have a membership with WeCOACH. We certainly would love for you to be a member. And we're doing some really neat things here in honor of the 50th anniversary of Title IX and our Move the Numbers campaign to grow our membership and grow our community. And right now, I'll tell you, we're growing exponentially. We just signed 28 conferences in divisions 2 and 3 combined that are going to be a part of our new development program for women coaches. It's going to be a year-long program specifically tailored to meet the needs and issues that women in divisions 2 and 3 are facing in the coaching profession right now. We're going to pour in national experts to help grow their careers and help with the learning that they're seeking in divisions 2 and 3. And we're incredibly excited. Same thing in the youth, club, junior high, middle school, high school levels. We're also, as part of our 50th anniversary, offering discounted pricing. You know, we don't want financial barriers to prevent coaches from accessing what we do. And so it's really important to me and our organization and our board that we price access to our programs at a level where whether you're at a program that has professional development funding or you're having to fund it out of your own pocket, and I'm trying to find partners that will eliminate any women coaches from having to pay out of pocket, but that's something that's to come. We don't want financial barriers to prevent women from being able to get the development they need to advance their careers and help them to be the best coach and leader that they possibly can be for the young people they're serving. We don't focus on any kind of X's and O's sport-specific concepts with WeCOACH. We focus specifically on leadership, communication, connecting with this current generation of students and young people, mental health, LGBTQ+ issues, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. How do these coaches create the best program culture so that these student athletes that they're serving have an exceptional experience? They're growing as people and as individuals, but are having a really good experience playing their sport. And at the time that they leave your program, they are ready to launch as lifelong leaders. And so that's what we focus on in the development for our community. And like I said, our community is special. We've got coaches all over the country, thousands of coaches, and we're growing exponentially. And I think when you talk about why join, coaches have the opportunity to connect with women in this community who become lifelong friends, mentors, and really they kind of lean on each other. It's just so powerful. And so, you know, and we're launching some new initiatives. You mentioned it, the Member Benefits Partners Program. We've got experts, consultants, speakers, individuals who have created educational and certification platforms for coaches, you name it. And we're growing that number. We just announced 18 of them this past Monday, and all of them have committed to pour into our WeCOACH community. But those partners are also committed to offering our coaches affordable access to the services and the expertise that they offer, which is really exciting. Our coaches can bring their expertise to their campuses, to their schools, to their teams, to their administrations. And so that's what we're hoping to get out of the Member Benefits Partners Program. But our members come first at WeCOACH. They are our why, and we want to make sure we provide them a first-in-class experience when they join our community.
You know, as you were sharing, you know, kind of the, you know, the benefits, the goals, you know, kind of the whys of the organization, I was just really impressed with how closely it aligns with the same goals, et cetera, of our national and state organizations, the NIAAA, for high schools. WeCOACH, I think historically has been more college focused. Obviously the NIAAA is for high schools, but the goals are the same. We're here for kids. We're here to develop coaches. We're here to help ADs, and certainly the organizations are not. They're very compatible together, and that's one of the reasons that we're excited that you've allowed us to come in and partner with you. So Vanessa, if one of our listeners, I think you really should, if they wanted to reach out, find out more about WeCOACH, maybe even, pick your brain a little bit, what's the best way that they can find out more about WeCOACH?
Absolutely. We would encourage anyone looking for more information, certainly visit our website at wecoachsports.org. We also have social media accounts with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We'd love for you to engage with us in that way, and then reach out. We have certainly information on our website of how you can contact us, but if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm accessible, and I don't mind anyone having my contact information, Vanessa at wecoachsports.org. I would welcome you to reach out to me directly if you have questions or would like to inquire about what we're doing and how you can join our community and support the work that we're doing. We're incredibly excited to work with you, Jake. I would love to get some of our coaches on your podcast and continue to help amplify them and the great work that they do as coaches. And you're absolutely right. We have a strong membership in the collegiate space, but we're growing in every level of sport right now. And right now we're having entire school districts sign their middle school, junior high schools up with WeCOACH. And again, some of that's because we're offering some special 50th anniversary pricing. A high school can join for unlimited number of women coaches for $200 for the year. And then in the junior high and middle school space, they can join for $100, unlimited women coaches to get access to the programs. And we're growing our programs. We're working intentionally right now to expand and grow to make sure that we're meeting the needs and the different topics that these coaches need us to focus on to help further their careers.
And athletic directors are always looking for great professional development content for their coaches. And so ADs, here's a ready-made, library of resources for you as an AD and for your coaches. So I'm going to give out those addresses one more time. Correct me if I mess it up. The website, wecoachsports.org, and then Vanessa's email, Vanessa at wecoachsports.org. Did I get that right?
You got it. Thank
you. Thanks for sharing all that. We're not done. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back with some more with our guest, Vanessa Fuchs, the CEO of WeCOACH. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to our good friends at SnapRaise. Go to snapraise.com and see how better fundraising can make better programs. Get away from the fundraising headaches of the past. There's no upfront cost. Your data is secure. You can follow the donations if you want to, but you don't have to. Our coaches used SnapRaise very successfully, and I didn't have to do a thing as an athletic director. And the best part about SnapRaise, it works. Choosing the best fundraiser for you and your group is critical, and you can put the SnapRaise digital fundraising difference to work for your school. Go to snapraise.com and check out the thousands and thousands of dollars that they have helped schools just like yours raise using the SnapRaise platform. Okay? Change your fundraising game plan and start a fundraiser that works for you. Go to snapraise.com and get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Vanessa, one of the questions that we've been asking almost since the very beginning of the podcast has to do with this idea of social awareness. So how can an athletic director do a better job of being socially aware for their stakeholders, for their coaches, their kids, their community? Do you have any advice for us?
Well, I think it's a critically important topic, and it's something that certainly will impact your success, regardless of whether you're an administrator, a coach, or even as a teammate, the more that you can invest in some self-learning to better educate yourself about some of these social awareness issues. I just think it goes a long way with showing your ability to relate to others, and it's critically important. And I learned that, like I mentioned earlier in the show, as we were not only facing COVID, but facing a society where it's evident that not everyone is equal yet, and not everyone has the same opportunities. And so how do we, as white allies, learn to best support and be a part of impacting that change that's so needed? So I think first it starts with education, and whether that's self-learning or you educate yourself by having communication and discussions, honest, authentic, vulnerable conversations. I learned so much talking to my colleagues at Florida State, and not just my peers, my staff and coaches, but also our student athletes. If you ask, they'll tell you. If you ask, they'll tell you, and you can learn so much. So I think as an athletics director, as an athletics administrator, as a coach, the more you can build those relationships with your student athletes and have those authentic conversations, those vulnerable conversations, sometimes described as uncomfortable, the better we're going to be as a society. So I think it's critically important. And I think there's so many resources out there, and it's a matter of each and every individual, no matter where you fall kind of on the spectrum of understanding, whether it's you're early in learning or you're more advanced in your awareness, your education, your ability to impact change, that we as coaches and administrators were sometimes described as lifelong learners. And this is certainly a topic where we have to be lifelong learners and continue to develop the ability to establish cultures within our organizations, within our departments, that make everyone feel included, make everyone feel as though they belong, and truly demonstrate diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I do think also this impacts retention of staff and retention of coaches. I hear often from our community, why did you leave, or why do you want to get out of coaching? Why did you leave your school, or why do you want to get out of coaching? And sometimes it's as simple as, but it's not simple, it's complex, but sometimes it comes down to the support they feel in the environment that they're working every single day. And do they feel included? Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like they're being supported? And this plays into that. So the more that we as leaders in this profession can educate ourselves and bring in resources to help educate the entire department, right, and establish the expectation and the standard that this is the culture that we will live each and every day, it's critically important. And I do believe you can establish a culture that allows people to remain a very long time, and will allow your department to be even that much more successful by doing so.
Yeah, again, I love how you talk about the importance of the relationships. If that administrator, that leader, even a head coach with their staff and their team, if that relationship hasn't been built, where those dialogues, as you said, those conversations can take place, it's just not going to happen. And then you also talked about the importance of how that leads to, that culture. And is it a productive culture where people are thriving, or does it turn into that toxic culture where people are leaving? And you're absolutely right. That people are leaving coaching, people are, getting out of the profession. Wow. Yes. Great stuff. Great insights. Once again, our guest today is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH. We're going to take another break. I know that's a shock to everyone, but we're almost done. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They have a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a unique way to display your school's Hall of Fame or your school's record boards for every sport, for every event, you need to talk to the good folks at Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. Go to their website, It's vitalsignswalloffame.com, or you can shoot them an email to sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, and go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH, one of our new partners with the podcast. Vanessa, we were talking during the break, and you shared a really interesting topic that I think our listeners would like to hear about.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. I get asked this question all the time. Where do we find the women? I'm an athletics director. I'm hiring a coach. Where are all the women? And so I just wanted to touch on briefly, that, and whether you're a new or a veteran athletics director, hiring is the most important thing that you will do. The people you surround yourself with, the coaches that you hire to lead the student athletes on your rosters and on your campus and at your school, it's the most important thing that you'll do. And I really believe it takes an intentional effort and a strategic effort, but it takes some time. And I know that we're so busy as administrators, and athletics directors are running in 500 miles in different directions. It's a difficult job, but the more time you can take to make calculated hires that will intentionally build a diverse, qualified pool of candidates for any opening, whether it's a coaching opening, coaching opportunity, or a support staff role, an administration role, the more effort you put into building a diverse, qualified pool of candidates is critically important. And what that looks like, and like I mentioned, it can take a little bit of time, but certainly if you're hiring a coach, you can call WeCOACH. We would love to help offer some suggestions, but I wouldn't say that we're the only option. It's critically important as leaders in sport and as hiring managers that we're going out and we're making those phone calls to coaches associations, to your peers within, whether it's your conference or your school district, making calls to other schools that may have recently hired a coach in a similar sport and position to see who else was in their pool that might be a fit for the job that you're hiring. There's so many talented coaches out there, and it takes an intentional effort to kind of build that list, build the pool, and then certainly when you've built your pool, making every effort to not only hire the best person, but when you have the opportunity to try to hire a woman and hire a person of color to lead your programs. Because we know there needs to be more women and people of color coaching our teams, raising up to the highest levels of athletic administration. Our young people need to be able to look up to the leaders in your department and catch a vision for their own careers and be able to say, I can do that one day. But we would love to be a resource and help in the process. And if that's something that an AD would need, but we would encourage that there is a lot of effort that goes into your hiring practices, because it's so critically important. You want to get it right.
Yeah, I heard someone mention the other day that you should hire hard and manage easy. In other words, put the effort into hiring great people and then let them, go out and do what they do best for you. Very good stuff. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the WeCOACH platform does have a resource there for people to not only people that are trying to get hired, but people that are looking to hire good people, correct?
Yes, we do have a job center on our website. And so it's a place where hiring managers can post job openings in any level of sport. So that is a resource. And we're certainly happy to help point to other resources as well that are available. So we would welcome you to reach out.
Okay. Well, Vanessa, this has just been so cool, visiting with you and having you share with our listeners, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment, which is sponsored by Athletic Surveys. We're going to hear from them in just a minute, but when we come back, we're going to find out what Vanessa Fuchs, longtime athletic administrator, is going to put into her new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. We use surveys for everything at my schools, for teachers, for parents, for coaches, for kids, and the information that came back was almost always overwhelmingly positive. But the survey also allowed that squeaky wheel parent to vent a little bit, and sometimes they'd share a small issue that you could address and keep it from turning into a big issue because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done the survey. Talk to the good folks at athleticsurveys.com or send them an email at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, this has been just a real treat for me. Our guest has been Vanessa Fuchs. She's the CEO of WeCOACH, a longtime athletic administrator at Florida State University, also at the NCAA National Offices. And as I said, now she's the CEO of WeCOACH. Vanessa, you certainly know your way around the world of athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 things are going to go in Vanessa Fuchs' athletic director toolbox?
I love this question. And I've got a lot more than 3 that I'd like to put in that toolbox, Jake. So I'll try to keep this to 3. The first thing, and I'll just think about what I've done as I've approached a new opportunity, whether it was at the NCAA, Florida State, or now here with WeCOACH. The first thing I think is so critically important is right off the bat, the first several months, engage in a listening tour. Learn as much as you can. Do a lot more listening than you do talking. And really, and this is a period of time where you're going to build those relationships that are going to be critically important to your success. So a listening tour that involves not only people within your department, your coaches, your students, your staff, but then making sure you've got solid relationships with the key constituent offices on your campus and at your school. It could be your president or your principal's office, your student life or student affairs. It could be your health center on your campus or at your school. All of the different offices that will help your athletics department be as successful as possible. This also means you have those good relationships. You don't always have to turn to just your staff, but now you've got this whole community in your athletics department to support the work that you're doing. And they may not be your direct staff, but they're on your university, they're on your school's campus that can pour into your staff, your coaches, and your students. I would say the second is it's critically important as a new leader in a department to be visible and be accessible. And so as much as it's hard, it's difficult. I had a difficult time with this at Florida State. There were so many things coming at you every single day. Get out of that office, get from behind the desk, get out and visit practices, be visible, and not just practices, be at their events. These young people need to see you on their turf, supporting them in what they do. And I'm telling you, it's instant credibility that you will generate by doing that for not only these young people, but for the coaches that you're also working daily to help them be as successful as they can as coaches. What's a good third one? I'll offer this. Yes, you want to listen, you want to learn and take a lot of time. Don't be so quick to do what my third suggestion is, but don't be afraid of change. As a new leader, there's certainly going to be some really great things that your department already is doing, but as you do your listening tour, you're going to learn what might need to be tweaked, what might need to be refreshed, and you might even learn what needs to be completely blown up, overhauled, and reimagined. Don't be afraid of change, because sometimes you'll learn from the people in your department, they've been waiting for that change to happen. So don't fear change, but be strategic about how you go about making any change within your department. Have a plan, learn from others, include your staff, include your coaches, include your athletes when you're making decisions related to change. You might even need to make sure you're communicating with your community, whether that be your boss, the president or principal of the school, your donors, just to make sure that you've kind of buttoned it up before you launch any new change. But don't be afraid of it, because I can assure you what I've learned anytime we've made changes in my career is a lot of times your people are leaning on you to do those things, to do the right thing, make changes where needed, all for the betterment of not only your department and your school or your university. You certainly want them to shine through the work that you're doing in athletics, but you want that experience for your student athletes to be exceptional. And so that would be the third item to put in the toolbox is don't be afraid of change.
Well, I love them all. Particularly, I like the visibility one. Get out and be seen. I was at 3 different high schools during my 20 plus years in Florida, and at each one, I would have parents or kids say, "We've never had an athletic director at one of our events, whether swim meet or soccer game or something." And I'm just thinking, where else would I be? I'm the athletic director. So yeah, you need to get out and be seen. As you said, it really cements that credibility with your stakeholders. Great stuff. One more time, Vanessa, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, find out more about WeCOACH or maybe pick your brain, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Sure. Feel free to visit our website at wecoachsports.org. But also, I welcome you. You can reach out to me directly, Vanessa at wecoachsports.org. I love to hear from not only our community, but others that are interested in helping to elevate what we do. Jake, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about not only myself, but certainly about WeCOACH and the awesome work that we're doing to impact and elevate women in coaching. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for spending time with us. And as I mentioned, we're very excited about moving forward with our partnership with WeCOACH. For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of every interview get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back next time for new content on the Educational AD Podcast, and check out our videos on YouTube. Vanessa, one more time, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day. And before we go, we want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Their indoor scoring tables and video boards not only create money for your department, but also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and check out what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Thanks again for listening to the Educational AD Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Come back next time for another edition of the Educational AD Podcast.